in your endeavors is key. I can't tell you how many times I have seen over the last 10 years how many ideas, or even more than ideas, people that have actually taken steps to do things and create processes and work with formulators and work with scientists, that what they're doing has already been discovered, meaning it's already been invented, it's already been filed with the patent office. That's the number one thing I tell them. And I think that's the lack of education, I think, in an emerging technology field, is that everybody thinks that what they have might be so obvious, or based on their own knowledge is so new, that they're going to continue moving forward and spending money on research and development, when really they could have maybe done the search earlier, and then if something was there, it's not the end of the story, it's just maybe they can go in a different direction, slightly different direction. So that's a really important part, is doing the patent search. And then the second, I think the most important factor in this, besides the lack of education, is that there are very unique rules in the United States. We are like any other country. We have very unique patent laws, and they're pretty new, and they changed in like around 2013, after 250 years. And now in the United States, if you have made a sale of your product, or again, so talking to this grower, in the hypothetical, if the grower comes to me and has already maybe created something that he sold, or he's created something that he's offered to sell, and now he's coming to me, right? Now he's coming to say, okay, now I want to protect it, because that happens all the time, right? Because there's this, people are just kind of researching, developing without any kind of, I mean, people have knowledge of what's going on around them, but they don't really have maybe knowledge of what the patentability is, or what has been filed before them. So in this hypothetical, he's kind of, made some sales, or offered to sell it, or talked to people about it. Like he's talked to investors, and, maybe he's done this without a non-disclosure agreement. Maybe he's talked to friends and family. He's literally talked about the idea and given away some of the secret sauce, or what it entails. Well, the United States has laws that say, if you do any one of those three things, if you've made a public disclosure, if you've offered to sell your product, if you've sold your product, then you only have 1 year, one single year, to ever file a patent on that which you disclosed, or sold, or offered to sell. And that is something people just don't realize. So I've definitely been in situations where growers, entrepreneurs, geneticists, scientists have come and said, okay, now we're ready. Now we're ready. Now we want to protect it. We feel like we've gotten it to a point where we can protect it, or we're about to, and then we create the timeline as to where these specific events have happened. And so many times, Snowden, I have to tell the bad news to people, to say to them, sorry, you publicly disclosed this like 366 days ago, right? You missed the deadline to file a patent by 1 day, right? You're 1 day over the
Wow.
1 year mark. It's amazing. It's unbelievable how much this happens. And so, yeah, again, it's about education. It's about empowerment. It's why I do public speaking about this stuff, to really, it's because people inadvertently give up their patent rights in the United States. It's even worse in some other countries. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I learned something new here. I had no idea that you must file a patent within a year to protect something if it's on sale.
Correct.
I imagine a lot of people don't know this.
I know. You're right.
So what happens if someone is selling something, and let's say, I don't know how often it happens, but I wonder if there are poachers out there looking for companies that are naive with, principals who are naive in terms of patents, and they don't file their patents. And then these companies swoop in, make another product that's identical to it, and then file a patent for it. What happens to the person who initiated the technology? I mean, can the poacher come back later and say, well, sorry, I filed the patent on this, so you can't have it anymore? Or is there any recourse?
There is a recourse. Exactly, that's the excellent scenario that you just posed. Excellent. So let's continue it. Okay, somebody steals it, or just maybe sees it and makes an identical product. we'll use that. We're going to use that exact same scenario, and then files a patent first. And then the original company that didn't know to file a patent now then maybe comes to me or another lawyer and says, "Hey, wait a second. We were on the market. Yeah, we didn't file a patent, but we were on the market, let's say 2 years before this company who's now advertising that they have the patent on this when really we did it first." So the recourse is tough. I mean, that you would have to, so that company that chose not to file a patent has to prove that they were really first, and has to also prove that that company didn't independently come up with it themselves, right? Because that could happen, right? The company in your scenario, it's a poaching type of thing, right? It's like an infringement type of thing. It's like them going out and the second company going out and saying, I'm going to take the chance, or I know that they didn't file a patent and I'm going to do it. That has to be proven. But if it's proven, if you can prove that, then there is recourse, because the patent law does only protect the inventor, right? So inventor is an interesting word. It's a legal terminology. And in that scenario, the law, in theory, wouldn't protect the poacher, because the poacher is not the inventor. It wouldn't protect the infringer, because the infringer is not the inventor. But it's going to be up to the first company to prove that. And that might be hard, right? When you think about it, if you were this big public company, you were awesome doing sales, it would be hard to prove that this company, maybe bought something from you and reverse engineered it. Like, that's not impossible to do, but you'd have to prove that. It would be your burden to prove that. That's why if you had the patent, if that first company had the patent, then any sort of poaching or infringement activity that postdates your filing date will already be assumed to have been a poaching or infringement situation. You know what I mean? But because in this hypothetical they don't have their patent on file, then they have the added step of proving that, yeah, maybe they were in existence before, but that this second company was poaching them. So again, the law doesn't protect a stealer or a poacher or an infringer, but it will be up to you to prove it. If you had the patent, there'll be less to prove, because any kind of event that happens after your patent filing date would be assumed to be a poaching, infringement, or stealing activity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that reminds me of something too that I've encountered with the USPTO, the US Patent and Trademark Office. There was an issue about a year and a half ago that I heard through the grapevine. The trademark office was denying or not clearing trademark applications that had to do with products that were specifically in the cannabis space. And their reasoning behind it was that, this is a Schedule 1 substance, and so they're not going to trademark anything having to do with it. Was that ever an issue with the patents?
Yeah, good question. No, it's unbelievable. Even though they're both, the United States Patent and Trademark Office are both under the Department of Commerce, the United States Patent Office has never denied an application for reasons of legality, right? They have never said, okay, we're not even going to look at your application. We're not even going to look at your patent application because it has the word cannabis in it, or it has CBD in it, or might be, or the product that you're going to create might be a class 1, harmful substance. That has never happened. And it's interesting, just like you said, on the trademark side, that is not that is truth. It's not a rumor, right? They for many years the trademark office denied those applications, but the reason is kind of almost elementary, and I'll explain it. When you have when you apply for a trademark, the trademark office, the first thing you have to prove, or one of the things you have to prove, is interstate commerce, right? That is one of the requirements in the United States, that you are selling your product or services across state lines. So they care about what happens between the states. And as you know, the only 30 plus states in the union have legalized the cannabis products to be kind of shipped across state lines. And so the trademark office, from their perspective, is like, oh, well, if it's not legal in all the 50 states, then how are you really selling it across state lines? And so that's the reason why they were denying things. On patents, patents have no connection to commerce. In the way the patent law was set up, it has no connection to commerce. That is a trademark thing. What the patents care about is that you're novel and not obvious around the world, and that you have really truly something unique and new. And if you can prove that, then then great, you can get a patent. Of course, you're going to sell whatever you're patenting across state lines, but then that's for the trademark office to worry about, not for the patent office to worry about. But for many years, people wouldn't get patents because a patent and a trademark, if you want to sue someone for infringement, you have to go directly to a federal court, right? When you get a patent and trademark, these are federal rights. You're not getting a state right. You're not getting like a New York trademark. You're getting a federal US trademark. You're not getting a New Jersey patent. You're getting a patent that covers all 50 states. So for many years, people would say, oh, why should I get a patent if I can't even go into a federal court? Because that's where the federal courts, that's where they're going to say, well, we don't even have the jurisdiction to rule on your federal patent that you may have gotten from the United States Patent Office, because we can't, as a federal court, we can't even hear the case because it involves a class 1 substance. So that was predominantly how it was for many years. People were like, why should I get a patent if I can't really enforce it? All that has changed. There have been already 2 cases that are cannabis related regarding patent infringement and patent validity that have been that are currently under the courts now, under the federal courts now, and the federal courts have not dismissed it. So all this kind of regulatory change that's going on in America has trickled up to the federal court system, and now the federal courts are in the process of listening to federal patent infringement cases, which means the reason why companies never really filed patents because of that, because why should I get a patent if I can't enforce it against somebody in federal court? That has been somewhat eliminated. So there's really no reason not to get a patent. There's still some gray area with the trademark office as to whether you can get a trademark. There are ways to get a federal trademark in the United States for a cannabis or CBD related product. It just involves some statements that you have to make as a entrepreneur about your supply chain. And I can unpack that a little bit if you want.
Yeah, I'd like to. First, let me ask you something, because this also raises kind of another issue with the legality. Now that the Farm Bill has made hemp legal throughout the United States, a lot of people are selling CBD. And I mean, there's a whole other kettle of fish with that, because the CBD that was approved by the FDA for Epidiolex was taken out of Schedule 1, but CBD itself was not expressly removed from Schedule 1 with the passage of the Farm Bill, right? So without getting too much into the weeds on that, what's to protect someone who's got a CBD product if they want to go and patent their product with CBD, given the fact that the FDA does not recognize any other CBD as being a legal product except for Epidiolex, and it can only be used for that one purpose?
Yeah, no, good question. No, so on the patent side, whether you're taking your CBD from hemp or something else, or extracting it from cannabis or doing something else to it, that's okay. You can apply for your patent. You can get your patent examined if it's novel, that kind of what you're doing and kind of the way you're doing it is novel around the world. You will get your patent and you will be able to go into a federal court. That's not the issue. You'll be able to do that. What the Farm Bill has had the most effect on is when you apply for the trademark to sell that hemp-derived CBD that is now federally legal. That there you'll be able to, and that's exactly what I was referring to. If you can make that, if you can explain to the trademark office that your